News update with Nate. Welcome to GanjaLeaks.com.
You know who's not going to enter God's kingdom? Cowards. The Lord doesn't want cowards in his kingdom. He wants real men.
What do you guys think? I built it myself. I wanted to take this time in this video to set the record straight and give you guys the whole story of what's actually going on with the Trulieve lawsuit, you know, what I actually did, and why I'm being sued. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a pastor's kid and pastor myself. I started an organization called Christians for Cannabis, which started out as just a viral Facebook page with over 20,000 followers because I wanted to advocate for this God-given plant that heals people to people that come from more Christian and conservative backgrounds. If you didn't grow up in the church, you may not be aware of this or not, but it's unfortunate that the Christians and the pastors are probably the biggest voting demographic that are voting against cannabis-related laws that really shouldn't be laws. And, you know, I wanted to do something about that by setting the record straight and explaining what Jesus would actually do about weed and how, as evangelical Christians, should we handle this controversial subject. So I started that, I think it was 2016, you know, around 10 years ago. And it's been an interesting journey. I've worked on political campaigns. I've done million-plus view interviews with political operatives like Roger Stone. I've interviewed Agricultural Commissioner Nikki Fried and the current Agricultural Commissioner candidate Matt Taylor, technically. And it's really, really been fun. I've met a lot of interesting people from a lot of interesting walks of life. And then in 2018, President Trump signed the Farm Bill legalizing hemp. And when that happened, the market share from 10,000 hemp businesses in Florida sold more cannabis, hemp-derived cannabis, that gets you every bit as high as the dispensary bought cannabis. Their market share actually increased because there's only 22 companies that are in Florida that can legally sell cannabis-derived medical marijuana versus 10,000 small mom-and-pop companies. You don't even need a medical marijuana card to buy from them. So when that happened, the MSOs, Trulieve specifically, doing the most lobbying, started lobbying against these businesses trying to pass laws to make it illegal for them to sell, which puts their actual financial livelihood at risk. So when that happened in 2023, I started Ganja Leaks anonymously with a literal mask. Why did I do it anonymously? Well, because a lot of these big MSOs have a history of suing people for cases like the one we're dealing with this one, the defamation. And I'm not a millionaire. I'm not financially solvent right now. I don't have the resources to hire a big fancy DC law firm or anything like that. So I literally used artificial intelligence to make videos like this one. Check it out.
A direct message for the Florida government. This is a call to action for those in power. We're tired of the crony canna monopolies. We're tired of the corruption. This movement is our way of resisting, of standing up against anti-free markets. It's sad that it's come to this, that I have to hide behind a mask to speak the truth. But until crony capitalism ends and the right to grow is protected, the mask stays on. A symbol of our defiance. Ganjapreneurs like myself are rising up as a countercultural movement. But we cannot do this alone. Every one of you, my fellow canna warriors, has a critical role to play. Spread this message far and wide with urgency. Let every corner of Florida hear our call. This is Ganja Leaks, and together we will not be silenced.
So then, around this same time, when I started, one of the very first videos I posted on Ganja Leaks, Wilton Simpson, the current Agricultural Commissioner, who in the past has taken over $200,000 from Trulieve to his two different PACs. One of the PACs is literally called Friends of Wilton Simpson. He held a press conference and basically said that we have to save the children. They're selling knockoff trademark infringed packaging that looks like Skittles and gummy bears and all these other mainstream candy brands to kids. And that's what these legally compliant hemp businesses are doing. So we have to save the children. Here's the statement he made. Check it out. Okay, so here is just part of the press conference that Wilton Simpson held back in March of 2023. The context of this press conference is when they were trying to ban hemp products, and they're basically trying to sell to the Florida citizens that it's all about saving the children. The reality is that it's really because the big MSOs, specifically Trulieve, who've donated over $200,000 to Wilton Simpson, don't want anyone else to be able to sell it except for them. So let's start it.
As you can see on the easel next to me, these intoxicating products are being sold across Florida. Each of these images represent product found right here in Florida in our neighborhoods.
Okay, so right off the bat, this statement is extremely misleading. I actually used to work in the hemp industry for 2 years, repping various hemp products, which means that my job was basically to get it into stores and network and sell to all the store owners and managers. Out of the 10,000 hemp businesses in Florida, I've personally been in over 1,000 of them. And when you're a sales rep, you generally pay close attention to all the products that are on those shelves because that's your competition. You want to know how many blatant trademark infringement knockoff packaging, like he's showing here on the easel in the back right, I've ever seen? Take a guess. 1. Okay, now it is true that the black market sells these types of products and often sells them illegally to kids. However, that's what we have the DEA for, and those dealers should be arrested and prosecuted. The scientific studies indicate that you shouldn't use hemp or cannabis products until the age of 25. So I just want to make clear that I'm not advocating to sell to kids. But that isn't what Wilton is trying to sell here. He's trying to penalize federally legal hemp businesses for selling legal hemp products with compliant packaging for doing something that the black market is actually doing. This is flat out deception. I can't tell you how many times I've seen the look on a hemp business owner's face when this type of stuff happens. Their entire financial livelihood is at stake simply because the real reason Wilton put on this press conference was so that the medical cannabis dispensaries could be the only ones that could sell a plant that grows out of the ground. This is textbook crony capitalism that favors the cannabis monopolies. But don't take my word for it. The Ohio Attorney General just filed a lawsuit earlier this year against Trulieve and several other cannabis companies for forming a monopoly. Let's continue.
As a grandfather, these projects being widely available to anyone regardless of age concerns me.
This is also materially misleading. Before July 2023, Florida lacked a statewide age restriction for ingestible hemp products such as gummies, but products intended for inhaling, including hemp vapes and smokable products, were already restricted to purchasers 21 and older. Most smoke shops also voluntarily required customers to be 18 or 21 for all psychoactive products. A gap in the statute does not prove that stores were routinely selling THC gummies to 12-year-olds. I'm not saying that smoke shops never sell to high schoolers. I'm sure it happens here and there, but those smoke shops should be penalized or have their license revoked. But it's not cool to penalize an entire industry for the sins of a few.
This proposed legislation creates much needed common sense guardrails around these products. Florida is not alone, as more and more states are seeing and need to tackle this issue. 21 states have regulated, restricted, or banned Delta-8 THC. I want to be very clear on what this bill does and what it does not do.
Okay, so let's examine the bill itself, particularly the provisions he doesn't mention here.
It does is it protects our children.
That describes the bill's stated purpose, not its entire effect. The age limit for gummies and child-resistant packaging could also help protect minors, but the original bill was also limited products to approximately 0.5 milligrams of THC per serving and 2 milligrams per package. Those restrictions affected adult consumers and businesses as well as children.
It supports agriculture.
There's no supporting evidence is offered for that claim. The original proposal could have harmed hemp manufacturers, retailers, and potentially growers by removing a major category of legal products from the market. Calling it support for agriculture ignores the part of the agricultural industry that opposed it.
The bill ensures that products made with hemp consumption are held to the same standards as other food products in our state.
This is partly true, but incomplete. The bill classified hemp extract as food and imposed additional manufacturing and packaging requirements. However, hemp extracts were not previously free of standards. Florida already required independent laboratory testing, contaminant testing, certificates of analysis, QR codes, batch numbers, expiration dates, and cannabinoid quantities on the labels themselves.
Some will say this bill will end the hemp industry.
Critics had a legitimate reason to say that. The proposal wouldn't have ended hemp fiber, hemp cultivation, or every CBD product, but its original THC limits and exclusion of synthetically derived cannabinoids could have effectively eliminated most intoxicating hemp products and substantially damaged Florida hemp businesses.
Let me be clear, the current Wild Wild West situation, selling anything to anyone, is going to end.
This is the most clearly inaccurate statement in the speech. Florida businesses could not legally sell anything to anyone. Existing law already regulated THC concentration, laboratory testing, contaminants, labels, and packaging information. Inhalable hemp products were already restricted to customers 21 and older.
We will close the loopholes in state law being exploited to sell euphoric recreational cannabis products without restrictions.
Now, there was a genuine loophole. Florida had no statewide minimum age for ingestible hemp products, but saying these products were sold without restrictions is false. They were already subject to testing, labeling, contaminant, and THC concentration rules, while inhalable products were already restricted to customers 21 and older. The real story is more nuanced than this press conference suggested. Florida had an age limit gap involving ingestible hemp products and packaging that resembled candy, created a legitimate accidental ingestion concern. But Florida's hemp market was not completely unregulated, and no evidence was presented here showing that smoke shops were routinely selling intoxicating gummies to 12-year-olds. The original bill went far beyond filling the age limit gap. It proposed potency limits and cannabinoid restrictions that could have eliminated most of the intoxicating hemp market. Those provisions were ultimately removed before the bill passed. The final law established a minimum age of 21 for ingestible and inhalable hemp extracts, along with stronger food safety, labeling, and child-resistant packaging requirements. That final compromise was regulation, not the near ban promoted in the original proposal. Wilton either doesn't know what he's talking about in this press conference, or he's knowingly deceiving people and has malicious intent, which is grounds for a class action lawsuit by the entire hemp industry. And this press conference was one of the main reasons why I started Ganja Leaks anonymously. So just so you know, and if Wilton Simpson's watching this right now, you're using the same playbook that they used in the 1930s with the Marijuana Tax Act, which was orchestrated by the lobbyist Harry Anslinger, who had used racism to pass that law, because is the same thing basically happened. It was just a different industry. It was the paper industry that didn't want to have to compete against the hemp industry, because hemp paper was starting to take off, because there was this machine that was invented that was going to be able to extract the crop from the field with way less manual labor, which meant that they were going to be able to get the costs down. So the paper industry flipped out and said, oh, what are we going to do? Well, let's spread all this propaganda. And then another unfortunate thing that happened was a church group funded a movie called Save the Children, which was all about saving the children, to outlaw this miracle-giving plant. And that's exactly what you did in your press conference. Now, I don't know if you actually thought that it was an issue and that all these legally compliant businesses that were getting hemp-derived chain of custody paperwork and COAs were actually, in fact, selling to children with knockoff illegal packaging. If you really believe that, that's an honest mistake, and I can almost forgive you for that. But if you knew that that was bullshit and you maliciously did that anyways and risked the livelihood of all of these businesses, half of them which are owned by Palestinians that immigrated from this country that just want to create a better life for their family. I mean, that's not good, friend. I wouldn't want to be you on Judgment Day, okay? When you stand in front of the pearly gates of either St. Peter if you're Catholic or Jesus if you're Protestant. Like, why did you do this? That is not going to be good for you, my friend. So you really need to repent from that. And I'd like to take this opportunity to formally endorse Matt Taylor, also known as Matt the Welder, who's your opponent in the Florida Ag Commissioner Republican primary. This isn't cool. It's not cool. It's not cool, Wilton. Get your act together. Also, why did you delete the FDAC health complaint website that Nikki Fried had set up, the previous Ag Commissioner set up, so that she can become aware of any cannabis-related health complaints related to Florida, so you can do your job better? Here's a picture of the website that was set up under Nikki Fried. If we use the Web Archive website time machine, show that it was set up. And here's where that same link goes to now, which was my understanding it was taken down under your administration. That's not good. So I kept posting on Ganja Leaks. I kept exposing the fact with all these lobbying dollars that was spent on Trulieve and how they're basically forming a cannabis monopoly. As a matter of fact, right now the Ohio Attorney General is bringing a case against Trulieve and several other MSOs for doing just that. They don't just file lawsuits like that for no reason, guys. So they deserve their day in court. If it turns out that they're innocent, great, but this is not good for our state. We need to free the plant. Let my people grow, please, Wilton. Let my people grow, please, Kim Rivers. It's very, very, very important. This is not going to be good for either of your legacies. So then, unfortunately, when I was doing this anonymously, I set up a Patreon account and I accidentally left my name on the account. And Trulieve hired a private investigator and figured out that Ganja Leaks was really me. Oops. Now, it's not illegal to post things anonymously, by the way. As a matter of fact, our country was built on anonymous writers. Ben Franklin wrote his secret letters because his brother owned a news publication and he wouldn't publish anything that his little brother wrote. So he slipped anonymous articles under the door, written in the name of a widow, under a pen name, to make a point. Also, the Federalist Papers, who were written by our early forefathers, by, I think it was James Madison and two other guys, wrote 85 articles defending the Constitution because the Constitution had not been implemented yet because we were still 13 colonies, and it was George Washington who helped distribute those letters under the pen name Publius. Then in 1960, a man was sued for passing out anonymous flyers defaming a company that he claimed was racist. They found out it was him, and he was fined $10 for not disclosing his name. He thought that was bullshit. He took it all the way to the Supreme Court and won. And in that case, they actually cited both the Ben Franklin letters and the Federalist Papers. The same thing happened, I think it was in 1994. A woman didn't want to pay some school-related tax, so she passed out flyers anonymously. They found out it was her, and then they fined her, adjusted for inflation, $100. Now, I'm getting fined by Trulieve $750,000 in this lawsuit for just wanting to make the public aware of public health concern related to manufacturing standards that they were putting in their product. I can't go into specifics right now for liability regarding my case, but I've already posted it previously anyways before I knew that was a rule. And I also gave a court update as well related to the case. You can check out one of those updates right here. Check it out.
Direct message for the Florida government.
Right. It's just no fun anymore now that, the cat's out of the bag, that I'm actually Ganja Leaks. Anyways, I just wanted to kind of give everyone an update and explain where we're at with the case. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to raise enough money to get an attorney for legal defense. So, and this is after having previously raised $2,900 on Indiegogo, which was never paid to me by Indiegogo. We launched the campaign in late August, and then they never paid me and wouldn't respond to my emails for a month. And eventually told me that because of a policy they changed in October, that I don't qualify for payout. So hopefully all the people that donated to that campaign gets their money back from Indiegogo. So if you haven't, make sure that you follow up with them and do that, which is why we moved the campaign over to GoFundMe, which we raised $575. I've run out of time, so the case is basically at the stage of discovery, where I had to update all of my disclosures. So behind me, you'll see a screenshot of those disclosures because I'm now representing myself pro se.
This is where the fun begins.
So it's going to be very interesting. In that disclosure, we have my 3 witnesses, including a former government high-ranking official that will testify to the fact that she viewed hundreds of health complaints from people that have gotten sick, mostly from Trulieve, complaining about mold. And I have 2 former Trulieve employees that will testify to the fact that not only was there mold everywhere.
Oh yeah. But now with respiratory issues.
Mold was great. Mold was your friend. You just learned to embrace the mold because it was everywhere.
In the grow rooms, they could smell it through their mask. There was rats. And I didn't know this before. There were rats eating their food, breaking into the lockers. They would make them stand in one location for 4 to 5 minutes or 4 to 5 hours at a time. But they manipulated the testing of the moldy cannabis.
So instead of doing whole batch tests, Trulieve would have employees dig through bad batches, find the least messed up one, and then they would check it and be like, oh, this one passed, that batch is good. And then they would pass it on to the customer. And I'm like, dude, this is awful.
And then they still sold the moldy cannabis via grinding it down into concentrate and selling it via vape carts and other things. And they told the employees that was all okay. Well, guess what? That isn't okay. And I have the receipts to prove it all and the eyewitness testimony. So if you want to get a little bit more info on what's going on with the case, in case you weren't aware, the cannabis giant Trulieve is suing me for defamation, seeking $750,000. So all the details on the case are organized in a 34-minute video PowerPoint presentation, which is on the Ganja Leaks GoFundMe page, which is at the link in bio of Instagram. So go ahead and check that out. If you want to donate and help, great. If not, I'm going to just be representing myself and documenting everything that happens with the case and show it to all you guys. I talked to the Trulieve's attorney, Melanie, and she was very nice. Okay, so I give my full endorsement to Trulieve's attorney and their law firm. If you were seeking to sue someone for defamation and you're guilty as sin, apparently they will take the case. She was very nice to me. Now that they know that I have all of this information, what's going to happen next in the case, I don't know, but I can tell you one thing, you're definitely going to know, because I'm going to be documenting everything right here on the Ganja Leaks Instagram page for everyone to see. So comment below. Let me know if you should we bring back the masked man? Should we leave him or should we keep him in? I don't know. I kind of like him, to be honest. The original one was made with AI. And that's it. Otherwise, comment below. Let me know what you got. Let me know what your thoughts, because this is where the fun begins. So since then, I tried to put together a legal defense fund to defend myself against this lawsuit. I was able to raise $2,900, but then consequently Indiegogo never paid me because they said that because their merchant provider Stripe changed a policy that went into effect 2.5 months after I had launched the campaign and already raised all the money, they wouldn't pay me, and they said that I didn't qualify for payout. And all the people I've talked to that did donate to that campaign so far, none of them have received their money back. Shame on you, Indiegogo. This is a little ridiculous, just so you know. That's why I'm using GoFundMe, who also uses Stripe and doesn't have any issues with it for some reason. So we're going to see if there is going to be anything that we can do about that related to Indiegogo. They also didn't respond to any of my emails regarding payment 3 months after the campaign had ended after 90 days of being live. So 6 months and no response. It was absolutely ridiculous. So this forced me to represent myself pro se. I'm using Claude Fable 5 and Claude Opus 4.8 to defend myself, and to be honest, it's been fun. I absolutely love it because I know, because now that all of this information is now on the record, the press isn't going to be afraid to cover it. Why won't the press cover it? It's because of the liability of suing a company like Trulieve that has a history of suing the Republican Party and 2 other news organizations, of which all 3 cases they lost, by the way. The good folks at Myers, Watkins, and Stearns Weaver that have filed this case, we really have them to thank for doing this, because now it's going to all go on the record. So, something to think about. So, that's my story. That's my side of the story. That's why I did that. I get that, running things anonymously, sometimes make people nervous. That's what QAnon did. That was the same thing that eventually led to all of the people on January 6th being unjustly arrested for walking in a building that the security just let them in anyways. So do me a favor, go to ganjaleaks.com, donate to the Legal Defense Fund, and also buy my book, What Would Jesus Do About Weed? It's a book about how as evangelical Christians should handle this controversial subject, given that legalization is coming. It goes through all of the history of why the plant was made illegal, when was it made illegal, and when did the church first consider it to become an actual sin? Because there weren't Roman soldiers pulling people over on donkeys, arresting people for cannabis possession. The Romans didn't even do that, and they're the ones that invented crucifixion, and even they don't do that crap. So do me a favor, help me out, support the Legal Defense Fund, check out the website, all the updates, the whole legal docket are all in the case. I'd really appreciate it. It would really help me out because I'm now transitioning to being a professional journalist, given that the courts deemed me an unprofessional journalist because of a statute called 90.515 that says that you have to actually be paid. So that means I had to blow all of my sources. I had to give up all of my communications discussing anything Trulieve related. Hopefully now that I have the website and that we're bringing in money, we're selling books, we're selling swag, I'm compliant so that the next time I get sued, which I'm sure will probably happen, this won't be an issue. If you are a cannabis patient and you've gotten sick from any MSO related to spider mites, aphids, or mold, or anything else that's happened, email me at ganjaleaks@protonmail.com. If you're a former Trulieve employee that was treated poorly, and maybe you've been involved in a lawsuit that maybe you won or lost regarding this company, also email me at ganjaleaks@protonmail.com. And especially if you're a marijuana doctor that has actually had any of your patients that have gotten sick from any MSO bought dispensary, and you're willing to ask those patients if they'll sign a HIPAA waiver so that they can be released to me so that I can provide them in my discovery evidence for court. And if you're also willing to be deposed and testify, if you're a brave doctor, okay? So maybe a doctor that was a Marine before he was a doctor might be willing to do this. If you're Air Force, you're probably not going to want to do this. But if you're a Marine and you're brave and you remember that Hippocratic oath that you took, then please email me at ganjaleaks@protonmail.com. Interesting note I'll also add is that they actually got rid of the Hippocratic Oath for some reason. That oath that you take, promising to always defend and not doing anything malicious regarding practice in medicine for doctors, nurses, and any healthcare workers, that's now optional. This is absolutely ridiculous. The healthcare system literally is guilty of malice, given everything that has come out with Dr. Fauci and the vaccines, given that everything that has happened with opiates and everything else, where countless people have died and also lobbied to keep cannabis illegal and keep the good citizens of the United States in the dark about this plant. All of that needs to end. It's not happening on my watch. And if there's also any press, reporters, journalists that would like to cover this story and talk to me, I don't care who you work for, whether you're left, whether you're a conservative or liberal publication, establishment, or independent, it doesn't matter. I'll talk to any of you. Email me at ganjaleaks@protonmail.com. Thank you and take care. Comb your hair. See ya.
If the whole world is against me, then by the grace of my Lord Jesus, I am against the whole world.